welcome to the channel. My name's Donovan. Today we're talking about Halloween Horror Nights. Yeah. It's about that time. Here in Central Florida, things are heating up. It's about 95 degrees out. But we're talking about Halloween because it's right around the corner. In today's video, I wanted to go over what we know so far because we can speculate what's going to be coming to Halloween Horror Nights, the 30th anniversary. But I want to kind of go over what the houses that we know so far because right now we only know 4, possibly a 5th, out of a total of 10 houses. And right now that I know of, we don't know any scare zones or shows. There's a wild card in there, and I'll go over that in a little bit. However, I just wanted to go over some of the announcements that we've recently received. Starting off with probably the one that we've known the longest, and that's because it was technically a house last year, 2020, and it was kind of a preview house. Because of COVID, the actual Halloween Horror Nights event did not happen. So they postponed it and moved the 30th anniversary to this year, which is 2021. And what we saw last year was Beetlejuice. I was excited when I heard Beetlejuice was a house last year, and now that it's back and I get to go this year, I'm super excited because I grew up with Beetlejuice, the Michael Keaton, the classic that everybody knows. That is what it's portrayed after, and I think they're going to nail it. I purposely didn't watch any photos or videos of the event last year because I knew I was going to be here. But we have some clues of what to expect, and I'll go over those right now. So on the official Halloween Horror Nights page, the Beetlejuice Haunted House goes, "Say it once, say it twice, say it 3 times. It's time to turn up the juice and see what shakes loose as the original film comes to life. More twisted and terrifying than ever, Beetlejuice will haunt, taunt, and send you screaming out of the haunted house." And below it says, "He'll torment you as you wander checkerboard hallways and abandon you to your fate in the lost souls room. He'll menace you through the model graveyard and join you in fun of Dante's Inferno. Be a part of the infamous dinner party scene and witness Beetlejuice's chaotic wedding. It's showtime." I don't know about you, but I am stoked for this house. I think out of all the houses that we know so far, I'm probably the most excited about Beetlejuice, just because it's one of those, it can be a lot of fun. The scares aren't probably going to be too crazy, but it's going to be really wacky, and I like stuff like that. And you know, kind of like the maze style, you kind of get disoriented, things popping out at you. So it's not as much as like a scare fright, but it's more of a good time, you know, just walking through, having some laughs and whatnot. So I'm really excited for Beetlejuice. The house that they announced next was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this is one of those big IPs that they grab every year. Now, for some of you who don't know, they bring in some of big IPs from past movies, cinematic history, say Netflix, or just the horror genre in general. They bring in some intellectual properties such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and some Universal creates from scratch. Now, they try to do a balance of each year, and this year we know mainly most of the IPs to date. And again, one of them is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's saying you've seen the 1974 horror classic. Now it's your time to experience it for yourself. Enter the dilapidated Sawyer house and meet Leatherface and his demented family of merciless butchers. Will you make it out in one piece or in pieces? Step right inside the story, experiencing every nightmarish moment for yourself. Explore every familiar room of the Sawyer home, from the parlor to the blood-spattered kitchen. You'll face carving knives, meat cleavers, meat hooks, and of course, that roaring, slicing, flesh-ripping chainsaw. Okay, so if you haven't seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre up to this point, what are you doing? Go ahead, go watch it, find it, rent it, whatever it is. I'm sure it's on some streaming platform. It's a classic. I think this house has a lot of potential. I think this might be, well, up to date, other than the last one I'm going to talk about, and that's we're not sure if it's going to be a house or not, but I think this, as of right now, is going to be the scariest house thus far. If they do this right, and then I'm sure they will, but you're going to be in a old abandoned shack in the middle of Texas, and it's going to be old and dirty and dark, and there's just going to be a lot of meat and guts and blood everywhere, and like they said, a lot of sharp objects to walk around. I'm sure you're going to find yourself pinned in positions when Leatherface tries to back you in a corner. So I think that's going to be great. I think there's going to be a lot of screaming through this one, but it's going to be a great house. Now, these two got announced the same day, a couple days ago, and one of them is a Netflix series, and one of them is a Universal Classic Monsters that we all know and love, and that is The Bride of Frankenstein. So it's Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives. This time, the Bride of Frankenstein is stepping out of the shadows and taking her fate into her own bloody hands. The mate will have her monster, and the monster his mate. Enter the tower ruins where Frankenstein's monsters pulled the lever to bring down walls and destroy him and his bride. Recoil in horror as she tries to bring him back at any cost. Recoil in horror as she tries to bring him back at any cost, honing her diabolical genius one harvested body part at a time. Don't get caught between her and the bride of Dracula, who she captures and drains in hopes of reanimating her love. I think this one's going to be really cool. Like, it's going to be a sleeper. I mean, we all love the classic monsters, or at least I do. They're apparently, hopefully, building an entire land of a theme park dedicated to classic monsters. But I think something like The Bride of Frankenstein doesn't get as much love as something like Dracula or regular Frankenstein. So I think this is great, and I think it's going to be a great setting. I think, you know, where was Frankenstein located? Like France, I believe, something like that. That tower on the hill, and like the villagers and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they're going to bring all that in there, but the tower, and they're bringing in Dracula's wife. I think that's going to be really cool, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of like electric probes and you know, the lightning. I think that's going to be a huge play in this house, and I think it's going to be really cool. I think the lighting effects are going to make what's going to make this house. That's my call. So the fourth house that we know thus far is Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House. Now, you may know The Haunting of House on Hill. The Haunting of the House on the Hill. This is The Haunting of Hill House. And apparently there's a second season, and I've not watched that, so I have to catch up myself on this series before we go to Halloween Horror Nights. So I don't know this series as well as some of the others, but it goes as this. It stands like a brooding creature waiting for its victims. Enter the decaying remains of an aging mansion that lives. Even if all who dwell there are long dead, step right into Netflix's supernatural masterpiece, The Haunting of Hill House. Each unsettling room, each darkened hallway takes you deeper and deeper into your worst nightmares. Come face to face with the tall man, the bent neck, say that 3 times fast, the bent neck lady, the ghost in the basement, and more. Enter the red room and you may find yourself spending all the eternity listening to the sound of your own screams. That sounds intense. I'm really intrigued about this tall man. Like, is it a play off the Slenderman? I have to watch it to find out. Leave a comment below if it's the same thing or something different, or it's just like a play off of. But the bent neck lady, that sounds terrifying. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping they do something where, like they have done in the past, where you've entered in and it's kind of the scene and it's the set of the grounds of the house, and it looks like the house is up on the hill. I love how they do some of that stuff. Instead of just walking into the house, like you're just in it. I hope there is the grounds. I love when they do scenes like that. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, so we're getting closer and closer, obviously. Every week, I believe we should hear something. If it's a scare zone, a show, October is only 2-3 months away from this point now. So we have 6 scare zones, 6 haunted houses left, and a bunch of scare zones to remain to be announced. And at least one show. And the other main big thing that we know so far, the person who's running the event, the man who started it all, is Jack. And if you don't know Jack, I'll pull up a picture of Jack so you can see him. But Jack has been kind of a staple, the main character who runs Halloween Horror Nights. And there's a background of Jack if you're more interested in him. My guess is what they're going to do with Jack is, I think they're going to do a house, because if you look at the website, Jack is listed underneath the house section, but he's not a part of the houses just yet. It's just like a part of where the haunted houses section is. And now I'll I'll show you what he has his own page, and I'll show you what it says. It's Jack the Clown. I'm back and the joke's on you. If you know me, you fear me, yet fanatically await my return. If you don't, you're in for it, as all 3 of my incarnations, Clown, Ringmaster, and Rockstar, return for Halloween Horror Nights 30. Don't let me catch you alone. Now, I think there's a little bit of a hint there. My guess, and I have no insider knowledge on this, it says all 3 of my incarnations. I'm going to take a stab and say Clown Jack is going to be a haunted house. I think Ringmaster is going to be a scare zone, and I think Jack as a rock star is going to be a show this year. I mean, that makes sense, right? So that's my guess. Seal it up, lock it, throw it away till September something, or October, whenever it starts. If you can't get excited for just those 4 houses alone and Jack coming back, I can't wait for what's next. Okay, so you've made it to the part where we guess, and this is just guessing. This is no scientific proof. This is nothing leaked. This is nothing like that. So if you don't want to, if you want to wait for them to come out naturally, I would log off now or skip to the end of the video. But this is just a speculation map that you just type in Halloween Horror Nights 30 speculation map, and this is what comes up. This could have changed. This could be completely altered. But we're just going to see what it looks like, and yeah. Okay, so Going by the speculation map, it has all the 4 that have been announced. It has The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Beetlejuice, and Haunting of Hill House. Now the 6 that haven't been announced, they're saying in the speculation map, is The Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin. That sounds badass. So if you remember 2019, 2018, when they did Trick or Treat, and they did that section of the scare zone of all the pumpkins, imagine what they could do with the entire house. Yes. Yes, 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 1,000 yeses. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I believe along with Beetlejuice last year in the preview show, they also opened Puppet Theater. It says captive audience. So I think that was also a house that was shown last year. I believe that's what they're bringing back to this current year. Also something that would be really cool is Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. I don't know what it is, but the Tooth Fairy can be really creepy. It can be portrayed as something soft and sweet and fun, but also going to be creepy for obvious reasons. Now, this is the one where I think Jack could be a part of, and that's the Halloween Horror Nights Icons Captured. I don't know if that's something that they just made up and didn't know what to call it, or it's going to have all the icons of the last 30 years combined in one big house, and he could be the ringmaster of all those icons. Never know. Maybe we could see something like that. Now, this is actually something interesting. I was on TikTok the other day, and I saw somebody post a video of something called, they were in the park, so they were in Universal, and they saw a house being put up, and it was Welcome to Scary, Horror in the Heartland. And that's actually on this map. So that's something, and I'll actually put that video up here right now so you can see it. But anything that does with corn and like signs, like that was terrifying. And it was like 4 seconds of a black blob man had me worried going to sleep for the next 10 years. Still not right from it. And finally, Creepshow. Now, if it's the Creepshow that we all know from like the 90s, it's like him in a chair and he's like a skeleton and bones and he's reading a Creepshow book. I think it was a TV show. I'll see if I can find the picture that I'm referring to, and if I did, I'll see it right now. However, if it's that's terrifying. I'm excited for that. I love that. I don't even remember what it's about, but I'm excited for it. Anyway, getting back to it. Question for you guys. Out of the 10 houses that we just went over, the 4 that are current and the 6 that could possibly come and we could actually see, what are you most excited about? And out of the 10 that we went over, what do you hope there actually is? If there's something that is in the speculation that hasn't been announced, what would you like to see instead of what's actually on the speculation map? I would love to know. I want to see what you guys think on that. Last but not least, scare zones. And scare zones are pretty underrated because scare zones can be fantastic, as we've seen in the past. Some of the scare zone speculations include the 30th anniversary zone. It's a little vague, but fair. It says original. Creepshow's getting a scare zone and a house. Terra Cruentus. If you know what that is, please let me know. And best of scare zones mashups. Now here's the thing. I kind of believe the houses, but the scare zones, that's a little vague and a little far-fetched. Like, there's not enough substance, so they could really be anything in there. So, not really sure about that. Oh, and the speculated attractions that are supposed to be running while the event is happening, and that is Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, which we're not surprised. Transformers, Revenge of the Mummy, The Simpsons Ride, Escape from Gringotts, and Men in Black. Now they're saying the show is going to be the water fountain show, but I think they're going to have something else. Probably at the Fear Factor Live Stadium. I think that's going to have a stage show along with the fountain show. But those are just my guesses, my speculations, and I think that's pretty current and pretty accurate for that speculation, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Donovan, and if something like this interests you, definitely think about subscribing, like that like button, and I do YouTube videos mainly on Orlando-based things and attractions and theme parks. So check out some of the other videos and stick around for more to come, because there's definitely going to be more stuff to check out, especially as we're getting into some of these big events, wink, wink, coming up, not portraying Universal. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a blast. Wherever you are in life, cheers.